can make these out of your own apples. You could make it out of dried apples. But I'm just going to show you all how I do this. One of the most important things when making leather is to spray your leather pan with a vegetable shortening or spray. Because if you don't, you will not have leather. You'll have a mess. So what we do is we just spray that, make sure it's sprayed, and then you take your apples and you're going to pour it on, and you want it to be somewhat thick, but you don't want it to be too thick, and you want it to be real even. So I'm just going to kind of spread it out. And you all, these are the same things as like the kids' fruit roll-up snacks. And I actually looked at some of those in the grocery store the other day, and their main ingredient is pears. And of course, they're loaded with sugar. These, if you're making them for your own kids, they're going to be more nutritious. You know, again, you have control over what's in it. You can make different flavors. And then I'll take it and I just hold it up and I give it a little shake to kind of even it out. So once it's even, then I like to take cinnamon. You'll probably taste that in that, and sprinkle it over it. And then when this is drying, this is the kind of stuff I like to dry inside my house because it smells like apple pie. My husband thinks I'm cooking. We sprinkle just a little bit of cinnamon on it. Now, if you want to make different flavors, you can take Jell-O, different flavors of Jell-O, and sprinkle some like strawberry or whatever, just a little bit of Jell-O on them. You can even use sugar-free if you're doing it for diabetic. Now, this will probably take about half a day to dry. And then when it comes off, I take it off out of the pan. It'll roll off really easy. You can tell when it's dry, it'll actually change colors and you can touch it. And when it gets to a certain stickiness, you know that it's ready when it'll peel. And then I take it, put it on a piece of paper and roll it up. That way, I do this a lot for field days and things. That way I don't have to actually touch it again. And the people, when they come to have a sample, they don't have to touch it. They can get the little wrapped piece of leather. The pumpkin, did you all like that?
You use the pumpkin pie mix?
I did. I used pumpkin pie mix. But again, you all can make your own if you're doing that. If you want to make, if you have an abundance of pumpkin, you can add a little bit of sugar, add some spices to it, and make your own pumpkin leather. Now, another little trick when making leathers, I actually saw this on YouTube. Like say, if you had cans of apples or cans of peaches, and you wanted, you had like an overabundance, and you had 10 or 12 jars of peaches left at the end of the year, and you wanted to do something with them, and what are you going to do with 10 jars of peaches? Well, you can make leather with them. And instead of taking those peaches and draining them and putting it into your blender, you can take the top off, drain all the juice out of it, and then you can just simply take the bottom off your blender. I thought this was a really neat trick. Put it on your jar top, and then you can put that jar on your blender. Blend it up, and then pour it out on your leather. Quartz,
Really? Is every blender fit the top
does.
of the jar?
it fits this, and it fits the bigger jar too, the quartz.
Huh.
Isn't that tricky?
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. It's such a neat. It's such a neat idea.
Cheap, that's what's the place for fishing, isn't it?
Cheap tricks. I like the fun
Cheap
tricks.
That's the name of the band.
And you can also like add a little lemon juice or the vitamin C to make your fruit leather color stay a little bit better. And I do store my fruit leathers in the refrigerator afterwards instead of because sometimes they may not be completely dry. When you're drying fruits and vegetables, you want to cut them into pieces or leave them whole. I try to always cut my pieces about the same size, that way everything's going to get dry at the same time. Blanch your vegetables, dip your fruits in ascorbic acid or lemon juice. Spray your drying trays. If you're doing things like jerky, it's a good idea to spray your trays. There's nothing harder than to clean up these things when they're covered with meat juices, are they? In that right Wendy, they're just really, really hard to clean up. Single layer of fruits or vegetables to a tray, and dry for the correct amount of time. And the handout that you're going to get will have some times on it. But like I said, depending on the size that you cut them, times can be different. like with these two trays here. A few of these will be drier quicker than the others. So after I check them every now and then, I have a little container and I'll start pulling them off when they're dry enough. Weight loss should be expected, of course. You're taking out all the water. So around 25 pounds of fresh fruit will make about 4 to 8 pounds of dried fruit. 25 pounds of fresh vegetables will make about 3 to 6 pounds of dried vegetables. Now, what do you do with these dried vegetables once you've got them done? If they're not green beans or, the apples. Well, you can take a lot of, like the zucchini. If I was making soup, I've got dried zucchini. I can just simply add that zucchini right straight into my minestrone or whatever I'm making this winter. There's all different kinds of ways you can use them besides snacks. There is another thing, we were talking about rotating your trays. It's kind of called conditioning. And when you get these things off of the dryer and put them in your container, like say, I'll put the apples in here. Well, I'm going to leave them in there for about a week, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to check them. Because some of the apples in here are not going to be as dry as the others. And the others are going to wick that moisture from the ones that are as dry. So sometimes after you check them after a week, they may be moist again. So you might want to take them out, dry them for a little bit longer, and then put it back in the jar again. So they will do that. So, like I said, if you've got a dehydrator, just, practice a few times with it, and it'll just come to you how, you can tell by feel after a while on how things are doing. But I really do like to dry fruit. And actually, the nutritional value of dried foods can be a little bit lower than canned or frozen. And I didn't know that till I started doing this for this class tonight. But vegetables are important sources of vitamin A and C, and it's not going to be that much lower. And we get a lot of important fiber from our fruits and vegetables as well.
I have a rather vegetable peeler now. Would it make slices too thin, like on pears or something like that?
Probably would. It
Probably too thin?
would. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I slice them about, you can see on here about the edge of that apple, the red on it. I slice them about that thin, about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, meat jerky. If you don't have a food dehydrator, you can actually do meat in the oven, again, if it goes to 160. If you're doing deer jerky, we do recommend that you do put it in the oven before you put it in the dryer because of the parasites and things. Beef jerky, I don't normally put it in the oven before I dry it. I do marinate mine overnight in a soy sauce mixture, and I did bring you all the recipe for it. But I do dry it. I dried some the other day, and it took about 8 hours. But I do store mine in the refrigerator after it's dried. So you might want to, if you do a lot of jerky, you might want to think about that. But I will take it out and like take it on a camping trip or something and not put it in the cooler. But for the long-term storage, I do keep it in the refrigerator. And I do hide it in the back so that my husband can't find it. That's important too. So if you have a dehydrator that doesn't reach 130 degrees, I wouldn't use it for meat. And 1 pound of meat makes about 4 ounces, so you're going to lose quite a bit of water. And I've got some jerky for you guys to try. And these little containers are perfect for storing your dried stuff. And I made that just the other day. You can get the butcher just to cut it for you. And I do have some dried eggplant up here. Compliments of Wendy Curry's husband. He gave this to me last year, and I put it in my bag. I think there's some tomatoes in here too. But I don't believe I would eat these. They've been in this little bag for quite a while. But you can dry. I didn't know you could dry eggplant. He taught me something. And then we have some blueberries if y'all like to try those.
You said this was beef.
It is. And I have the recipe up here for you if you like to try it. I know a lot of people do make their own venison jerky. Okay, with herbs, air drying, or you can use the dehydrator. The less tender herbs, sage, rosemary, thyme, are best to air dry. We talked about that a little while ago. Punching holes in the paper bags. Basil, oregano, mint, you need to dry those really quickly. And they do change color quite a bit. And then again, dried herbs are 3 to 4 times stronger than fresh, so we need to use 1/3 to 1/4 for the amount. Those are blueberries. They're blueberries. Packaging and storing, we recommend that you keep it in containers that seal out the air and pests. Pack them in small, usable packages, because every time you open that container, you're letting in more air. And in Kentucky, you're probably letting in moisture too. But we need to label and date our containers again as well. And we need to, if you're doing a lot of dried foods, you keep them, in a certain shelf or room, you need to check those pretty often to make sure that, my green beans there that had mold in them, because you certainly wouldn't want to use it. And you can store them in the freezer. If you've got a lot of dried food and, for long-term storage, you can store them in the freezer. They will keep their color better. I know a lot of people that, a coworker of mine that did a lot of drying stuff, she always kept hers in the freezer. Her strawberries looked just as pretty and red, when she took them out every time that she did a lesson as they did when she put them in there. But they will last for 4 months to a year. So again, like with freezing, don't dry more than you're going to use. And drying foods really do make really good gifts. So if you dry a lot of foods, like I gave some of my coworkers little containers of basil for Christmas last year that I had dried. So, they a little container of something dried with a recipe would make a really nice gift for somebody. And in this economy, people really like homemade gifts, and it's important to share things with other people. We don't recommend using the infused oils, where you take the basil or the different kinds of herbs and put them in oil. We don't recommend that you do that, especially not leaving it out on the counter. The vinegars are fine. You can even make your own dried dip mixes out of some of the dried things that you make. I found this at a flea market one time, and the lady had dried her own stuff. This was made with tomatoes, onions, garlic, and she put a little Parmesan cheese, a little spices, some sun-dried tomatoes, and a little bit of preservative. But if you're making your own, you wouldn't have to do that. But she was making a lot of money just making all kinds of different flavored mixes. So that's something that we can do too, and share as gifts. Some other things that they have on the market today are pectin, specially made for freezer jam. If you all don't want to heat up your kitchen to make jam and you've got an excess of berries, you can simply crush your berries, put the sugar in, sprinkle this pectin in. It sets for 30 minutes, and then you can put it in these containers and freeze it for up to a year. The only problem with that is you can't really give somebody a jar of freezer jam in a basket or something. They have to keep it frozen or use it, put it in the refrigerator and thaw that in it. But it's really good. Sure Gel also, some of the other, I push your products here, but some of the other pectins on the market. This one has recipes for making freezer jam as well. So that's another good use of your freezer. Anything else? Anybody got any questions? So far? Okay, using dried foods, we talked about that earlier a little bit. Snacks, perfect for snacks, perfect for gifts. You can reconstitute them by soaking them for 30 to 90 minutes in cold water or 20 minutes in boiling water, if that's what you want to do with them. Like the beans, if I was going to cook those tomorrow, I'd have to soak them overnight, just like you do a dried bean of other kinds. You can add them directly to soups and stews. The boiling, perfect. Like if you're drying corn, you can take that out and just add it right straight to your vegetable soup, carrots, whatever you want to do. And they also make great desserts, fried apple pies, dried apple pies, anything like that. Makes delicious stuff. If y'all want any more information on canning, drying, or freezing, you can contact me or Martha Yonk down at the Extension office. And we have some more handouts up here for you all. I also have some recipes I've been working with a project, also have some books up here if you're interested in that. We've been working with a project called Plate It Up. It's with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. It's a partnership with the Cooperative Extension Service and the Kentucky Department of Ag, where we are working with students on campus, the food and nutrition students, college students on UK's campus. They are taking recipes that we submit to them, we're modifying them, and then we are taste testing them, and we're coming up with some recipes that belong to Cooperative Extension. So some of these recipes up here, there's one for watermelon tomato salad. I know that sounds horrible, it sounds really weird. It's unbelievably delicious. We have a corn, cucumber, and bean salsa that is fantastic. And we have a blackberry peach crumble recipe up here for you, and a green bean with ham and basil. So if you all, this doesn't really have anything to do with drying or freezing or anything, but these are just some really good recipes that we have out now if you all would be interested in taking some of these and trying them. They are put out, made by our students, and we're very proud of them. So we have a big project going with that. I have the Drying Food at Home handout up here for you all. I also have a handout on jerky safety. You know, anytime we're dealing with meat, we need to be safe about it, or any kind of food. We need to follow good food safety practices. And then I have my marinade recipe if you all are interested. Okay? Questions? That's all I have.
Let's get
Thank you.